Ms. Kane, could you brief us a bit on your trip to Syria?
Wait for 1 hour.
Please.
Thank you.
Ambassador Jafari, would you like to brief us a bit on the meeting?
5 minutes.
How was the meeting?
1 minute. Come on.
Mrs. Kane has briefed the interested delegations on the findings of the investigative team of Dr. Selstrom during the visit to Syria. The briefing was interesting, and I guess the Secretary General or one of his aides, whether Mrs. Kane or anybody else, will brief you on their own assessment. However, as far as the prevailing situation with regard to Syria is concerned, I would like to share with you the following remarks. Number one, I urge the media to act fairly, objectively, without any biased agenda, and not to be part of this bellicose language and talks initiated by some of the influential American media. I'm saying this because the media might be one new type of the weapons of mass destruction if it conducts its business in a wrong way. Syria and the fate of thousands of the Syrian people are at stake because of these allegations, miscalculations, accusations. All of them are unfounded with regard to the use of the so-called chemical weapons. Senator Kerry came out recently, 3 days ago, to declare that what he called high confidence reports, intelligence reports, have proven that chemical weapons were used in Syria. This disclosure is highly amazing because the Syrian government, in an official letter sent to the Secretary General, as well as to the members of the Security Council, on December the 18th, 2012, cautioned and warned the so-called international community against the possibility of seeing the armed groups possessing or supplied by chemical, poisonous substances by some governments working against the Syrian government in the area or outside of the area. And then these armed groups would use these chemical substances against the civilians and the military, and consequently accuse the Syrian government of doing so. We said that on December the 18th, 2012. 1 day after the attack of Khan al-Assal in Aleppo, meaning which happened, as you know, on the 19th of March, 18 hours after the attack had occurred, the Syrian government once again informed the Secretary General as well as the members of the Security Council of the use of chemical substances by the armed groups in Khan al-Assal against civilians and military. It took Mr. Kerry and the American administration almost 8 months to come up to the international community with this very big disclosure of saying that, you know what, chemical substances were used in Syria. And that is in itself a proof that the Syrian government did it. I wonder on which basis a great power intelligence such as the United Nations could act unilaterally speaking and could adopt such a grotesque language to attack a sovereign nation member of the United Nations such as Syria. And then who appointed the American administration to anticipate on the outcome and the final findings of the mission of investigation? How could the United States of America act unilaterally speaking from outside the context of the United Nations? Who asked Mr. Obama to be the bully of the world? Why not waiting until the investigative team headed by Dr. Sellstrom has finalized and completed its mission of investigation? And then I'm sure you have all heard about many counter evidences produced and submitted by Russia, by other important reporters and journalists and intelligences on the fact that the armed groups in Khan al-Assal used the chemical substances. And the proof is that the day we concluded the agreement with Dr. Sellstrom and the Secretary General Ban Ki-moon on sending the investigators to Khan al-Assal, the same day the armed groups and the terrorists of Al-Qaeda and Jabhat al-Nusra invaded Khan al-Assal again and slaughtered 300 people, military and civilians, of its own residents, because all of them were eyewitnesses of what happened in Khan al-Assal on March the 19th, 2013. Then the Russians submitted a report of 80 pages, scientific report, to the Security Council as well as to the Secretary General. What happened to this report submitted 2 months ago? What happened to this report? 80 pages. The Russian reporter, Anastasia Popova, did the same. She was in Khan al-Assal the same day this appalling crime took place. And she made a reportage of her own. And she submitted these proofs and evidences to the Secretary General. What happened to her testimony? I'm sure you have heard 2 days ago about this extremely alarming article published by Mrs. Del Gavlak, the Associated Press correspondent in Amman, in Jordan. She is a reporter that has been in Amman, Jordan for 10 years, working for the American agency, the Associated Press. And she was covering the issue of Al-Ghouta incidents, meaning the use of chemical substances in Al-Ghouta on the 21st. She was covering the story from the opposition side, as she says. And she met with those who perpetrated the chemical use, the use of chemical substances in Al-Ghouta on the 21st. She met with them and they told her that the Saudi intelligence, the so-called Prince Bandar, the head of the Saudi intelligence, provided them with these chemical substances and asked them to use it against the government. But you know what? According to her, not me, these guys are ignorant and they are not highly trained and qualified because they are amateur, they are not real fighters. They didn't know how to use it. They tried to catapult in a very rudimentary manner these chemical substances on the other side, the Syrian military side, but they failed, and the substances exploded into their own hands, and this is why we had this huge number of killings, all of them innocents, because we are talking about Syrian victims. Believe me, I'm a diplomat. I'm here to extinguish fires. I'm not here to be an arsonist and a fireman at the same time. I'm defending the fate of my own people. We are not warmongers. We are not here to defy the American arsenal. The American missiles crews are blind. They are not smart. They will kill innocent civilians, the way they did it in Iraq in 1991 when they shelled Al-Amiriya civilian shelter and killed 500 kids and women. President Obama speaks about not changing the regime. He said that it will not be Afghanistan, it will not be Iraq. Who guarantees the day after? Who guarantees what will happen the day after? And what does it mean sending a couple hundreds cruise missiles and Tomahawk over the heads of the Syrian people? Would Obama save or revenge the fate of dozens of Syrian kids by killing thousands of them? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense, neither politically nor militarily speaking. We need the American administrations to get involved, positively speaking. The role of United States is very important in helping us, all of the Syrians, helping the Russians, helping al-Ibrahimi to have everybody going to Geneva too and settling this Syrian crisis around the table of negotiations and dialogue, national inclusive dialogue, which would be conducted by the Syrians themselves, not by sending cruise missiles and opening a new drama in the area after what happened in Iraq and Libya. Those who are pushing the President Obama to get involved in another war in the area, they are doing that on purpose, whether they are Republicans or Democrats. I mean, here I am referring to the hardliners in the Congress and the Senate. They want Obama to have his hands, to have blood on his hands, the way George Bush had it in Iraq. Barack Obama put an end to the American military presence in Iraq. Barack Obama promised to withdraw from Afghanistan. Barack Obama got the Nobel Prize laureate. Barack Obama went to Cairo to address the Arab and the Islamic world, and he said there that there will be no more wars. Where is this Barack Obama? Where is he nowadays when he speaks about preparations for striking? He called it striking Syria. This is not strike. This is going to be an aggression according to the United Nations Charter provisions. Thank you very much.
Ambassador, couldn't Syria call a ceasefire now as a sign of goodwill?